Welcome to the Big World Made Small podcast for the adventure traveler. I'm thrilled you're here. My name is Jason Elkins, and in addition to being your host, I'm also a former U.S. Army paratrooper, third-generation commercial hot air balloon pilot, paramotor pilot, ex-Montana fly fishing guide, advanced open water scuba diver, and a full-time nomad that's visited more than 30 countries on 6 continents. As a seasoned adventure travel expert with a passion for creating and sharing meaningful experiences, I'm on a quest to impact the lives of adventure travelers, the tour operators they rely on, and the communities that host them. Every week, I bring you exclusive interviews with fascinating adventure tourism experts who have agreed to share their personal stories, favorite destinations, and some invaluable travel insights they've picked up along the way. We'll enjoy a casual conversation, create some connections, and likely share some laughs. It's my hope that by the end of each episode, this big world will feel just a bit smaller. Let's get started, shall we? Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Big World Made Small podcast for the adventure traveler. I'm super excited today. We've got Christopher Hill here with us. He's got a couple things going on that we're going to dig into, but Christopher is the founder and CEO of 2 businesses, Hands Up Holidays and Impact Destinations. Christopher, so happy to have you on the show. Thanks for joining us.
It's my pleasure, Jason. Thank you so much for having me.
One of the fun things about technology now and just the nature of the show is most of my guests are in different places than I am. So we're sitting here doing this on a computer screen. So some of our listeners aren't able to see your face, but the question I want to start with is, where in the world are you right now?
Auckland, New Zealand.
Auckland, New Zealand. Very cool. And I'm here in Tbilisi, Georgia, the country of Georgia, for those that don't know. And isn't technology amazing that we can meet and have these conversations almost as though we were in person? So thanks for coming in. What time is it there in Auckland?
It is 7 p.m. in the evening.
All right. Well, thanks for taking some time out of your evening to join us. Christopher,
Pleasure.
I've got a bunch of questions, a lot of things that I want to discuss with you. We had a conversation before and you were referred over to me by someone else that thought we should connect, and super excited to see where it goes. But let's start with, I want to give our listeners an opportunity to kind of get their heads around what is Hands Up Holidays and as well, what is Impact Destinations? So maybe we'll do 2 pitches, kind of that 60-second elevator pitch for, let's start with Hands Up Holidays and go from there.
Sure. Hands Up Holidays is a luxury travel company that focuses on family trips that combine sightseeing with an aspect of giving back through hands-on service projects such as house building or being a reading partner or wildlife conservation, all mixed together.
Very cool. I guess I got to ask, I get the hands part, but was there more to it with the hands up? Because if you don't know any better, you might think it was something totally different.
True. Yeah, there's various connotations to hands up. Yeah, I took a couple of them from like a hand up and not a hand out. Yep. And then also sort of, hands up who wants to help is the idea.
Okay. Very, very good. Because as I was imagining it before, I was like, okay, somebody that's maybe a little hesitant to travel for safety reasons. We hear conversations like, oh, it's dangerous there. Oh, you're going to get robbed or whatever. But so I'm just throwing that out there. That's not the case. Yeah. It has nothing to do with the name of your company. And I trust that you've never had incidents like that. Or maybe you have. I don't know. You got a story for us? Okay.
Lots of stories, but not one of those.
Good deal. And before I forget, let's touch on Impact Destinations as well. What makes it a little bit different and what's the deal there?
Yeah. With Impact Destinations, the idea is that it's a traveler's philanthropic donation, which enables the experts in the destination to do what they do best. And at the same time, unlocks a unique experience for the traveler. And that might sound a little bit sort of esoteric. So to give you an example, say on a safari day in South Africa, guests actually get to witness and participate in a rhino relocation from a reserve that's facing a lot of poaching to a better protected reserve in Botswana. So this is where the guests actually go into the helicopter with the veterinarian while he's darting the rhino. And then once the rhino is sedated, land and spend some time with that sedated rhino, and then see it get airlifted off to Botswana. It's about being able to say, I saved the life of a rhino whilst on my vacation.
Is it maybe I'm just creating this story in my head, but one difference I came up with out of the two is Hands Up being a little bit more hands-on, building something, whereas maybe Impact Destinations was kind of more empowering the experts to do what they're doing anyway, and maybe seeing it, witnessing it, but not necessarily flying the helicopter or shooting the tranquilizer darts. Is that?
Yeah, you've nailed it really, Jason. Maybe one more example just to give you a bit more flesh to it would be in Australia, we offer the opportunity for guests to fund a scholarship for a promising Aboriginal art student. And in return for that funding, they then get to spend time with an established Aboriginal artist from whom they can commission their own work of art.
Okay. All right. That does help. Yeah, that's very cool. And I guess you've mentioned Africa, you mentioned Australia. Give us kind of an idea of the scope of places that your guests are typically visiting.
Yeah, typically they're through Asia, Africa, Latin America, but there's a bit in Australasia, Pacific as well, and a bit in Europe and a bit in North America, but the majority are that Africa, Asia, Latin America.
Okay. And the majority, we're not gonna dissect your business, but I'm just curious. I don't even want to use the word demographics, but your typical guests, are they Kiwis or from all around the world, or what does that mix look like?
Yeah, great question. Right from the beginning, and we've been going for nearly 20 years now. It's been Americans that have been booking with us, and that's remained at sort of 95% of our clients is Americans, followed by Brits, and then followed by Aussies, Kiwis, Germans, French, Canadians after that.
Okay, that's interesting. So if I were to go onto your website and look around, is it presented kind of as an American? I'm not saying misrepresented. I'm just saying if the majority of your clients are from the States, then it would make sense. I'm just curious.
Yeah. Well, to the extent that all our pricing's in US dollars, yes.
Okay. That right there's probably answers my question. So, all right. Very, very cool. And Christopher, let's figure out how the heck did you get from where you were to where you are now? You're doing some pretty cool things. And I suspect there is a little bit of a story. So how far back do we need to go to understand how you got into all this?
Need to go back really about just over 20 years. And that's basically a trip that I took in 2002 to South Africa. And I was working in finance in London at the time, London, England. And on that trip, in addition to going on safari and staying in beautiful lodges and exploring the wonders of Cape Town and the garden route and so on, I also helped to build a house for a family in one of the townships. And this enriched my whole travel experience in two main ways. One, it enabled me to actually get to interact with the local people and gain insights into their lives and hear their stories and swap laughs with them. And I'd done quite a bit of travel leading up to that, which is all fantastic, but that element was for the most part missing. And then secondly, it just felt great to actually make a difference in the lives of this family that we were helping alongside to build the house for. So I got thinking, well, I've learned some good business skills. Why don't I put in something I'd find a bit more meaningful and fulfilling and enable others to have similar experiences like I've just had? So that was the genesis of what became Hands Up Holidays.
Wonderful. You just gave me so many questions. So I guess the first one, let's go back a little further if you don't mind, because I heard you say I was working in finance. I had traveled a bit before, and that this one trip is the first trip that it kind of introduced the element of that connecting with the community and providing support. So let's go back. When you were a kid, did you plan to go into finance all along? How did you end up in finance?
Yeah, you're really digging deep there, Jason. No, I definitely not as a kid. And even a few months before getting the job in finance, I wasn't even necessarily planning on doing that.
Okay. What did you major in school?
Law and business.
Okay. All right.
And I was all set I accepted a job with a law firm and was all set to start with them. They had agreed for me to travel for about 9 months before starting with them. And my thought process at that time was, well, yeah, I'll travel and see the world and just get travel out of my system and then settle down behind a desk and start my career. So that was my thinking at that point. And then that I got that job just at the start of my last year of college. And during that last year, ended up winning a scholarship from one of the investment banks, a British investment bank. And it was through that. So this was in New Zealand. And it was through that they then said, can we send your resume to London? And I said, sure, why not?
Mm-hmm.
And so then I was traveling as per I'd agreed with my law firm, and I eventually got to the UK and got in contact with the bank and had a bunch of interviews, and I got thinking, well, one, I wasn't going to get a job offer, but I thought if I did, I should accept it because I'd always regret it if I didn't.
Why is that?
Really, well, because when I got to London, I loved London and just the electricity in the air, and I thought, this is actually an amazing city. I did visit it when I was 15 and really didn't enjoy it at all. I thought it was this dirty, crowded, looted place that I can't believe people live here. But as someone in their early 20s, it was totally different perspective.
I can imagine.
So I thought, I'd love to spend some time here, and there's a lot of energy in the field and in the city itself. So that was why I was thinking, I'd love to give it a shot, and so I did get the job offer, and the rest is history.
Okay, so out of the 9 months that you'd planned to travel, how far did you get into that before you got the job offer and decided to move to London?
Yeah, I got about 7 months into it.
Okay.
7 months, yeah.
Did you feel at the time that you got the travel out of your system?
Well, no, nothing could be further from the truth. It only just, started, juicing the, I don't know the expression, but it only just opened my eyes to all that's possible, and so many places to see, and that adventure's definitely still continuing.
And I've been traveling full time for 4 years. I missed the opportunity when I was a little younger, so I'm running into a lot of the gap year people, right? So it sounds like what you were describing as a gap year, and it seems very common for Kiwis. It's like a lot of the Kiwis I've spoken with did that. A lot of Europeans. People in the States, for some reason, tend to not do that as often. And I'm just curious kind of what your thoughts along the way are around that. Is it like, did everybody that you went to school with in New Zealand go take a 9-month trip?
No, not everybody. Not everybody. But a large number would either go take some time out, either straight after university, college, or they would work for 2 to 3 years here in New Zealand and then go overseas. It's pretty much a rite of passage. It's called the OE for what New Zealanders call it. OE standing for overseas experience. And as I say, it's rite of passage to do it. No matter if you're in that sort of professional mindset of doing it as a lawyer or a banker or an accountant, or right through to people getting bar jobs as well. It's very common.
I don't want to guess what you're going to say, so I'm just going to ask you, what do you attribute that to for people that grow up in New Zealand?
I attribute it to the fact that we are so isolated here that, it's an amazing country and a beautiful country, but there is still the sense of just being so far from everything and far from the action that we've got to spread our wings. And a couple of other factors I think would be, we're a young country, in terms of, the early settlers, came here in the 1800s. And so there is, it's, you don't have to go that many generations back before you get people who've, traveled on a boat for months to get here. So
getting on an airplane for 17 hours is just part of your DNA. It's like, oh, this is easy compared to, okay.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And I think as well, certainly in that sort of professional tier, there's that aspect of upskilling in a bigger market such as, London or New York, for example, or, Australia as well is increasingly attractive, but you're upskilling and then coming back here with those skills.
Okay. And do parents I want to dig into kind of your parents, what was their reaction? I'm sure there's two things going on. One is like, okay, he's going to go away for 9 months and then come back and work for the law firm, but But nope, he's staying in London. So what was going on with the parents, and how is that similar to what you think other parents in New Zealand deal with?
Yeah, it's interesting. Now that I have kids of my own, it's
That was the next
like,
question.
yeah, I can't really full credit to my parents for being so fine about it, because I at this stage can't really picture myself being so fine with my kids, just chat, zooping off all over the world, and who knows when they'll be back, if at all.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I ended up doing 16 years in London, but my younger sister, did even longer, sort of 20 plus years. So for my parents, it was a long time between drinks to get to see them, and grandchildren and so on. And yeah,
So it was
as I
just
say,
you and
really full credit to them.
your sister. They only had the two kids.
No, I had two sisters who so the middle sister did spend some time overseas as well, but not as long as me or my other sister.
Yeah, either way, I can imagine. It's when I visited New Zealand quite a few years ago, I actually was calling my wife at the time, and it was the middle of the night there. I had to call her and wake her up. I said, "We got to move here. We got to move here. Oh my gosh, it's so amazing. It's so beautiful." And she's like, "That's a long ways away. That's, I would be totally isolated from friends, family." So needless to say, we never moved to New Zealand. But it's kind of like the reverse thing. It's like, I don't know, it's the reverse. It's the same thing. If we had moved there, my parents and her parents would have been dealing with the same thing with grandkids and all that. So I get that. Yeah. So you said, now that I have kids, and I mentioned, oh, that was going to be the next question, that's what I wanted to get into, was like, I don't know how old your kids are, but would you encourage them to go have that OE that you mentioned?
Yeah, I would, but it's kind of, partly through gritted teeth as well.
Mm-hmm.
Just, yeah, like, I mean, I have other friends that I moved to London with me around about the same time, who have not come back.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be, really hard for the parents. And if it was my kids, it'd be really hard for me as well. But, I also want them to just make their own call and their own judgment on it. And if that's what they end up deciding to do, then we'll work around that also.
Right. And I'm not sure, but I suspect, because you have a lot of connections overseas, you're working in this business, I suspect that if you needed to, or were so inclined, you could help facilitate an overseas experience for them that maybe felt a little bit more controlled. Maybe they go work at a lodge in Africa that you're familiar with and that you're comfortable with. And, if they don't write home enough, you can reach out to the lodge owner and say, "Hey, next time you see her, could you have her give me a call?" As opposed to them just taking off and buying a one-way plane ticket somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
I hadn't even thought about that, but that's definitely feasible. Yeah.
So, all right, let's jump back. Your parents, you said that they were very supportive of your desire to do that. Did you have opportunities when you were young, before you went to college, to travel with your parents because you're so far away from everything, or what did that look like?
Yeah. No, I mean, not that much. Like, literally, I did one trip overseas, which was I mentioned it, to England.
Mm-hmm.
England and Scotland,
right.
and Disneyland, when I was 15, and that was it. So yeah, it's my kids have now, they've been to, I don't know, 50 countries, and they're 12 and 14 sort of things.
That's kind of where I was going with that, as I suspected that maybe your kids have already had quite a few overseas experiences. Maybe it's a little different by definition, but yes. I'm also curious, because you said you didn't really like UK. You didn't like London when you went there when you were 15. I don't know if you had the opportunity to really discuss with your parents, why did they choose London, Scotland? Did they have particular interests there, and you fought against it the whole time, and you got Disneyland or Disney World as a consolation, or what was that like?
No, it was even a little weirder than that. My dad was working in sales, and he won the trip up to Europe, but actually it was to Greece, and it was just for mum and dad, and so we actually were sort of bundled off to stay with my cousins in London.
Oh, okay.
So that was how London came into the picture. And then Scotland was similarly, it was, we've got some I've got Scottish relatives. So it was when my parents decided, well, I say decided facetiously, ended up coming back from Greece. We met up with them and then drove up to Scotland with them.
Did they tell you how wonderful Greece was and show you pictures and Santorini?
They did.
And you're like, oh, I've been in London the whole time. That was nice of them.
I wasn't hating it, but it just didn't appeal to me as a place to live. That's for sure.
I get that. Do you remember at that time, if they'd come to you when you were 15 and said, Dad, want a trip anywhere in the world for 2 weeks and we can take the kids and we're all going together, where would you have wanted to go? Do you remember thinking about that?
It's a really interesting question.
I know. I don't remember anything when I was 15. Well, I remember a few things, but
it would have been somewhere probably like Hawaii, I'm guessing.
Okay. Yeah. That's a common one. Absolutely. So, all right. Very, very cool. So jump back to your kids real quick. It sounds like they've done a lot. You said 50 countries.
Yeah.
And they're teenagers?
Well, one's not quite 12 and 14.
Wow. Do you think they fully appreciate it? Because they're at that age. I've got some kids as well. And there was up to a certain point, they were pretty excited about some of this stuff. And then there was an age where they didn't want to go because they wanted to spend their summers with their friends and, all that stuff. So where are your kids?
Yeah, they're not quite at that point yet, but, it's not too far off. Yeah. So they're definitely happy to travel with us. I mean, we're increasingly, doing collaborative travel, i.e. getting their input on what they'd like to do. But yeah, they're happy to do it. Obviously happy whilst we're paying for it. But yeah, I think, particularly the 14-year-old, he's not, maybe, in the next year or two, it'll be rather hang out with his friends. And then like last year we did a trip to Vietnam and with some friends of his as well, family friends. So that worked out really nicely.
Do you, I suspect that there's a lot of projects that they participate in when they travel with you. I suspect there's moments when they're digging holes or stacking bags of sand or bricks or whatever. And so what I want to ask you about that is I remember when I was younger and I had an opportunity to travel with my dad quite a bit, mostly around the US. And then I just have a lot of memories of him putting me to work. I'm just going to say it that way. A lot of times I felt like, oh, this is a fun, cool place to be, but I was busy working. He's like, no, I need you to go do this instead of do what you want to do. It never really felt like vacation. So I'm wondering how your kids manage when you say, oh, we're going to Vietnam. And then they're maybe, I don't know, digging holes, doing the hands-on stuff. Do they appreciate that? Do they enjoy that? Do they gripe and complain? Maybe you don't want them to listen to this episode. I don't know. What are you willing to share?
Initially, I mean, we've done a few trips like that now, and initially there was some hesitation for sure. But once they got involved with it, they embraced it, which I was delighted to see. As you've said, drawing water from the well and then carrying it over to where the cement's being mixed and then getting involved with cementing, mixing the cement and then spading it into the wheelbarrow, then wheeling it over to the experts who are doing, the tricky parts, or getting on the end of a paintbrush. And really importantly, actually playing with local kids as well. Mm-hmm. Soccer, or just play. Really rewarding and so now they're definitely embracing it. Yeah.
I think this is super relevant both to just our conversation, but what you do now with Hands Up Holidays. You facilitate families to go do this. So this part of why I wanted to get here in the conversation is like the person that in their head thinks, okay, I'm going to take my kid to Tanzania, whatever, and ask them to mix concrete. And in their head, they're hearing their child say, this is my vacation. I shouldn't have to do this. I'm on vacation. I worked hard in school all year. I'm on vacation. Because that's the fear that's going through some people's heads if they've never done it. But you've done it, and based, just the nature of your business, you have more experience with this particular scenario than the vast majority of people. So what do you say to that person that thinks, I wish I could get my kids to go help and build a house?
Well, I'd say silly from our how we position things is really that, let's take Tanzania. We do have projects there, which is building houses for teachers so that they can live near to a school. And how we position it really is to say that, you might spend a couple of days doing that, but out of your, 8-10 day trip to Tanzania, that's 2 days, and the rest of the time is going on safari and going out to Zanzibar Island and Ngorongoro Crater and so on. So it's really emphasizing that it is still a vacation, really, but with this sort of taste of hands-on giving back as well.
Okay. And how do you, because the way we write an itinerary or plan an itinerary, there's a lot of kind of nuances to that. We kind of want to build the experience typically. And so do you do the hands-on stuff typically at the beginning of the experience, especially if you've got kids, or do you build up to that, or how does that fit into the mix?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's important to say that every trip is unique. It's individually tailored for each client, and so it depends. The bottom line is it depends what the client wants to do. But the flow that I would start with, lead with, would be to put it in the middle, so that you're doing some sort of activity type things. Let's say it's a trip to Costa Rica and you're doing some zip lining and whitewater rafting and bean to bar chocolate making and nature trails and so on. And then in the middle, you can be doing some wildlife conservation at an animal rescue center, or you could be helping renovate a school, whatever that it is. That's in the middle. And then some time at the end, typically sort of beach time. So you go to a new location and have some more sort of classic flip and flop, just chill out time, maybe snorkeling or surf lessons if you want as well. But that's the typical flow. So you do activities, then you do the service project, and then relax.
Okay. So that being said, I kind of frame the question as when do you put the work part compared to when do you put the fun part? But I suspect that a lot of the feedback you get after trips, I suspect a lot of the reviews you get highlight the quote unquote work part as being the highlight of their trip. I mean, look at you. You started a business because of it.
Totally. That's right. Yeah.
Right. So it's very, very cool. What do you, and I also suspect that you've either personally been along on trips with clients and watched them that moment when the light bulb went on, or maybe when their kid's light bulb went on, or you heard about it afterwards. And I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you've got any stories or any people that you remember over the years that changed their lives the way you did. I mean, you went from working in finance in London to doing these types of holidays for families. I mean, that's pretty profound yourself. And I suspect you've seen some other profound shifts.
Yeah, we have. A few that spring to mind would be one I love was a family that traveled with us to Morocco, and they were helping to build a library at a school, and so got a lot of interaction with the children at the school. And Christmas time came around for them, and they decided that they said that they didn't want to have their Christmas presents. They wanted to give their Christmas presents to the children that they were interacting with at the school. And
cool.
So, that was one really lovely story. And then others that are kind of even more transformational. This is in quite our early days. So sort of going back to about 2007, there was a woman who just retired, and she was wanted to travel with us. She just retired, so she's in her 60s, but she'd never really traveled before either. And I can't remember how, but we identified Kenya as where to go. But quite a lot of hand holding to get her over the line with this, and even when she was over the line, to get onto the plane and so on, she was a bit of an anxious traveler, shall we say? And so we did the trip. She was helping at a community in Kenya and loved it so much that pretty much straight after she got back home, she'd booked the next flight out. And independent of us, she had, rented her own apartment and bought a car there and just driving all around. And so that was just an incredible thing to see. So she spent another 3 months in Kenya, just off her own back from one of our trips. And then
I
we
love
had
that.
a family that traveled to India with us who were so impacted by it that they literally, the whole family moved to India for a year.
Wow.
So those are definitely extreme. By far and away, most of our clients, well, the vast majority of our clients do not do that, but it's happened.
Well, it's pretty cool because realistically, there are a lot of people that haven't had the opportunities to go do things outside the country. And it might feel very overwhelming, but then they find a trusted partner to handle some of those logistics and set things up for them. And then all of a sudden, once they've done it, they're like, oh my gosh, that was fine. I didn't speak the language and I still survived. I didn't go hungry. I had a place to stay. I had cell service. My maps worked on my phone. Maybe all these stories I had in my head about how intimidating all these places weren't quite the reality. And especially if you're doing a trip like yours, where you're actually spending time with the locals doing stuff. Because, frankly, if you be careful how I say this, but if you go on a typical safari and they pick you up at the airport and you've got a guide who deals with tourists all day, or a transfer driver. You go to a lodge where you've got a small staff that deals with tourists all day, and you don't really leave that environment. You're not really going to feel like you've met Africa. You've met some Africans that are working at a lodge or safari guides. But when you go there and, they put you in a van and they drive you, an hour and a half over to some small village, and you're sitting there with the ladies doing this or with the guys doing that and playing with the kids, you're like, oh, these people are just people. Wow, isn't that weird? Who would have thunk it? And I think that's really cool that probably you've had more people convert into, I don't know if you want to call it solo travel, not solo travels, but maybe independent travelers, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word. You've probably had more people convert to independent travelers than the vast majority of the guests I've had on this podcast. I don't know. Yeah, maybe. Just a thought.
Yeah.
And not that there's wrong with either way. You don't have to become an independent traveler to be a traveler. So anyway, it's an interesting concept to me. What do you what's the thing? I guess we maybe have touched on this, but what's the thing that you think surprises the most people about your trips? Maybe we just discussed it, but what's the thing that and I know you've got a wide variety of trips, but I'm sure there's some consistent, oh, I didn't think this, or I thought that you feel like you'd just like to share right now, if there's anything.
Yeah. Well, certainly pre-trip, the number of times I've spoken to people who say, I had no idea that you could travel in luxury and make a difference.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's our mission really is to make people aware that it is actually possible.
That's very cool. And for some reason, when you said the word pre-trip, something else just popped into my head, because as we both know, there's different types of travelers, and some people want to have every single detail spelled out for them. So they feel like there won't be any surprises. And then there's other people that don't care. Like, you got the flights booked, right? Someone's going to pick me up at the airport. Okay, great. And then you've got the type that wants to know all the details, but doesn't read anything. So I know you're like the person that sends you a message every other day. Hey, who's going to meet us at the airport? Hey, our drinks included that night or whatever. And you want to just say, did you read your materials? Did you read the stuff we sent you? Anything you want to say on that, or should we just move right on past that? I never brought it up.
Yeah, not too much to add, just to say that, we obviously you get all sorts and you just adapt to what the client temperament is.
Yep, that's a perfect response. I'm not even sure why I brought that up. Just something when you said planning, maybe it triggered me back to the day that I was dealing with more.
Can be triggering.
More travelers, but you just love them to death. It's like, but of course it's when they send you the message in WhatsApp on, Saturday evening when you're out with your family, they're like, oh, it's in the planner I sent you. But anyway, we haven't, Would the entire conversation we've had pretty much apply to impact destinations as well? Anything different about that you want to make sure that we add in there?
Yeah, great question, Jason. Well, impact destinations isn't as focused on families as Hands Up Holidays is. So it's in theory got a broader appeal. I think we have fewer impact destinations is quite a bit newer, and so there's fewer destinations there. Sorry. And I think, however, the experience you can have is still, really profound, and you can still obviously, particularly with our community projects that we have, get interaction with the local people. And for me, that's where the magic happens.
I absolutely agree. I guess that brought up one thing. I'm happy that you mentioned the family connection again. Should our listeners go away with this idea that Hands Up Holidays is only for families? Like, should they have tuned out when they heard us say families? Or can you mentioned the 60-year-old that you sent to Kenya.
Yeah,
I don't know if that
exactly.
was a part of a family or what, but I feel like
she was traveling on her own.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. No, certainly not. And when I'm to answer what I mean by certainly not, don't tune out. We get all sorts of clients, and the majority are families, but we get, just mentioned, solo travelers, we get couples, we get honeymooners, and we get also, for lack of a better word, friend getaways as well.
Mm-hmm.
Groups of friends traveling together. Yeah.
Do you do specific departure group trips as well, or is this all kind of individual customized itineraries?
We essentially all are individual customized itineraries. Occasionally, we do some set date group departures, but they're very rare, and we don't have any currently.
I suspect if you do a set date group departure, it's around a particular type of event or something that it doesn't happen year round. It's just something that, hey, there's this special thing happening. We think that our clients would be interested in participating type of thing, I assume.
Yeah, great assumption. Like, for example, we did some trips back in the day with Homeless World Cup, which is a soccer World Cup for homeless people. And so that's obviously date specific. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. That makes sense. I would like to touch on another thing that I've had a few people that I've spoken with around the subject of voluntourism, which is kind of what we're talking about. So in my mind, sure. Voluntourism, as it combines volunteering with tourism. I spoke with someone not too long ago that said that one of the challenges is sometimes these organizations, and I'm not saying your organization, I'm not implying that, and I want to be real clear, but I suspect that it's something that you get to consider when you're working with these organizations. Sometimes an organization will say, okay, we're going to put a well here. This is the example she gave me. I'm not the expert, so you correct me if I'm misinterpreting this. But she said, some of these organizations will come in and say, okay, well, we need a well here. This village needs a well right here in the center of the village. And so that's what we're going to do. And we're going to take the money you gave us, and that's what we're going to do. And then she was describing, she's like, well, a lot of the women in the village didn't want to use the well. They actually wanted to walk to the river every day because that was their opportunity to bond with the other women in the village. And they kind of resented having the well placed there. So that kind of brought up the subject is, how do you, as a responsible tour operator, work with these organizations, work with these communities, and work with your clients so that your clients don't go build a school that nobody actually is going to use or want. Or I'm envisioning somebody might have this story in their head. Oh, they probably go shoot the same rhino every week with a different group of clients, and they shoot it and they tag it and they put it in the helicopter and they move it a few kilometers over. And then the next week they've got new guests, they go do it and they move it back. I could see where somebody might cynically think that's the case. Maybe they do it somewhere. I don't know. So I just wanted to bring that up with you real quick so you can help ease concerns or address anything that you heard in what I said.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great example. The one of the well, and it typifies the reason our approach is different, really, in that our approach has been right from the get-go to never go in with an agenda or preconceived notions of what we think should be done in a community. It's always been one of questions. And so firstly asking, would you like assistance? And if the answer to that is yes, then ask them, what would that assistance look like? And then it's up to us to market it and see if there's interest from our clients to participate in that particular way. So
Very cool.
So that's how we avoid that issue.
Yeah, and that seems like the obvious choice, and that's why I wanted to bring it up, because I kind of already had a suspicion that this was something that's on your radar for sure, much more than it would be on mine. And so I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I mean another aspect I think that's worth mentioning is that volunteerism operators, a good number, can be justifiably criticized for taking away jobs from the local workforce. And again,
in what way? Help me understand that, Christopher.
Well, for instance, if you're getting a load of foreign volunteers to come in, then
okay, all right, I'm a little slow on the uptake. I get it now.
Yeah. But our model, just on that really quickly, is that it's I call it is a philanthropic volunteering model, in that the benefit that our clients bring is the funds actually to employ local people to do most of the work and buy all the materials. And
that's the big difference, isn't it? It's a
huge difference. Yeah.
Clients that are paying a significant amount of money to participate in these programs, as opposed to maybe an organization, I'm sure they're out there, where it's like, hey, if you just volunteer and come over here for a week and stack bricks, we'll feed you, and it's pretty cheap. And then, if you're a bricklayer in that village and you see a bunch of people that look like me over there, stacking bricks in exchange for, food, you're going to be pretty annoyed, I would think. That's what you're saying, right? Yeah.
In essence, yes. Yeah.
Okay. Probably
in contrast,
version.
Yeah. In contrast, we are actually, we're employing people, local people. So it's a win-win. And then just to round that out, the benefits that the clients get is that interaction and insights and world-changing perspectives.
Including with the people that have been hired to come in and actually actually make sure that things are getting done right, as opposed to a bunch of tourists that are super excited to be there and happy to mix concrete. But I'm not going to say, well, I'm just going to leave it at that, because I've been involved in some projects where I'm like, I'm not really sure what I'm doing is really helping. But just as far as the actual labor I'm doing is really necessary. But by me being there and interacting with the locals and the other people, that's where the value can be. It's like, so for example, if you've got maybe someone, their job today is to wash sandbags. I just remember this because it's something I did in the Army.
Oh, okay.
I spent a whole weekend washing sandbags, thinking this is ridiculous because they're sandbags. I don't think sandbags need to be washed. Still to this day, I'm convinced that there's no need to wash a sandbag if you're only going to turn around and dump sand in it. But anyway, so I use that as an example. And I felt like I was wasting my time. But if I was sitting there washing sandbags, chatting with a local person that's doing it with me and having a conversation, and there's something about washing those sandbags to instill pride in the community, because maybe the clean sandbags stacked around the building instill pride and stuff like that, then that's a totally different deal. Right?
True.
So, all right. This is really cool stuff. I wish we had some more time. Probably need to come back and do this again. But Christopher, before we wrap it up, I'm sure there's something I forgot to ask you, should have asked you. What else do you want to make sure our listeners know about you, your organizations, the world in general, life in general, or anything like that before we say goodbye?
Well, it's been a really freewheeling conversation, Jason. We covered a lot of ground. But I guess one thing to say would be that, we're a small organization to the extent that I actually personally handle any inquiry that comes through. If your listeners, viewers do feel inspired to find out more, when they send through an inquiry, it'll come to me and be working directly with me.
That's very, very cool. I'm happy you mentioned that, because I believe that this whole thing that we're discussing, this just kind of this space that we're in, is all about connections. And that's always been my goal, is with the podcast, is to create connections with people. So if you're listening to this and you feel a connection with Christopher and what he's talking about sounds cool for you, your family, there will be a link in the show notes to both of the organizations. So Christopher, I trust you're going to take great care of anybody that reaches out to you, as you always have. And I appreciate you taking some time out of your evening to come in and chat with us and share some stories. Thank you so much. Let's do it again sometime.
I would love that, Jason. And thanks for asking such perceptive questions.
I just ask whatever pops into my head. So thanks for going along with me. Thanks, Christopher.
Been a blast.
To you soon. Bye.
Yeah.
I trust you enjoyed listening to the conversation as much as I enjoyed recording it. If you're enjoying the Big World Made Small podcast, please take a moment to tell the algorithm by subscribing and posting a review so that others can benefit as well. I also invite you to take a quick trip over to bigworldmadesmall.com and join our private adventure travel community to receive new episode notifications, special access to our guest experts, and perhaps even some exclusive partner offers that we haven't discussed on the podcast. I'll publish another episode soon. Until then, keep exploring. It's the best way to make a big world feel just a bit smaller.